Are you staying in this situation because it brings you closer to your goals or because it's scary to live? Whether it's a relationship, a job, a place, I'm sure we all already mistaken safety for greatness. If you have this feeling that you are meant for better and bigger, but you make all of your choices to avoid that because you are scared, then you are depending on safety. And bad news, you have to let go of it. But what's good is that we're gonna talk about it in this video, and I will show you how it's completely natural and normal to feel like that and how to slowly chase more challenges. I love the quote that says old keys won't open new doors because it feels so great to have a comfortable situation, foundation that you can lean on, but often it can be an unconscious weight attached to your ankle. So all the things that make you feel comfortable sometimes actually hold you back. And if you're watching this video, I'm sure that sometimes you think that your goals are bigger than the average. And it's both true and fake at the same time, because at some point we all think like we're special. And so everyone think they could make it and they could be super extra famous and rich and whatever your goal could be. But could doesn't mean that it's assured. Potential stays potential until you win, then you're gonna be a winner. So if you don't actually work, there's nothing happening. It's just your imagination. Stop falling for the 10% of the time when you feel super successful and just comfortable in your situation. Because personally, I did that a lot in the past, where I would hate 90% of my life and just hold on to this 10% where I would feel comfortable. And those few moments of safety convinced me that I was meant for less. And it would create an illusion because I convinced myself to settle down and accept my situation. But the other day I ask myself, why are we even scared to lose a life we're not even happy in? Because is the risk of being happy such a massive danger? But I wanted to understand why we were like this and why we didn't want to face novelty. And so I have a study that illustrates that. So first of all, it's not laziness, it's just neuroscience. So you're completely normal. But there is this study done by Samuelson and Zeckelzer in 1988. And basically it explains that our brains are naturally wired with a status quo bias. So to make it simple, we naturally give more weight to maintaining our current state simply because it's the default option. So your brain values familiarity over optimization. And this is because breaking a habit actually hurts your brain. And this was shown by another study that showed that overriding your default option actually required to trigger the brain physical break, which is called STN. So at the end of the day, choosing a new habit, a new path is a physical workout for your brain. And one of the many solutions that was showed by science is that you actually have to expand your comfort zone, specifically your comfort zone orientation. So you have to be willing to face friction. And this is all happens if you trust life and if you trust yourself. You know, when you see naive people, they just move. They don't think, and therefore they go further because they don't overanalyze risks. For them, they only have to win. If they lose something, it would be their old identity that they don't want anymore. So in practice, how does it look like to expand your comfort zone? And there's two big categories, so two big ways of doing it. And the first one is microdosing discomfort. Because if you can handle changing the roll of toilet paper when you don't actually feel like it, how are you going to handle the discomfort of changing your life? So it can be very tiny actions that can signal to your brain that you're safe even when you're doing something you don't really want to do. It shows that doing something unfamiliar can be safe too. And over time it builds momentum and it's something usual for you to do something new and that you are uncomfortable with. And so there are three simple ways to achieve that. So the first one is microdose friction. You have to make daily life at least 1% more inconvenient than it is actually. It's gonna teach your brain that friction won't hurt you. So for example, change the roll of toilet paper, brush your teeth the minute you think about it, make your bed when you wake up. All the small things that you want to procrastinate that won't cost you anything if you do it or if you don't do it, just do it, because then it will train your brain to work with less resistance. Then there is microdose scale, where you make the starting point very small. So if you want to study, just put the book on the desk. If you want to work out, just put on your shoes. Again, this will avoid friction of thinking of the big goal. So you already started the chore. So now you just gotta move to step 2. And then there is microdose novelty, where you intentionally seek very small changes, very small challenges, things that will be new but that won't cost you anything. You can try a new random food, or when you're on Spotify and there's a playlist coming up and there is a genre you don't actually listen to, just stop and listen to the music. Because the more you expose yourself to the unfamiliar, the more comfortable uncertainty becomes. And so the second big way and second big category of being comfortable with new situations is keeping an evidence log. So basically you keep the receipts of what you do. Your brain is probably drama queen just like mine, and the brain is known to overestimate how much a future task is going to hurt. So to get around this, you need to start recording what's happening in your life to prove your brain wrong. So the first option is to track the the anxiety gap. So before you start something, rate your predicted anxiety from 1 to 10. How much you think it's gonna make you anxious. And as soon as you're done with this, rate again how you actually felt. And most of the time, you will feel how you exaggerated the way you would feel and you actually just felt good doing something new. Like maybe it could have been stressful in the first minute, but then it's easily forgettable. The second way is to actually collect your past wins. So you really keep a receipt book of every time you did something uncomfortable. So when your brain will actually tell you that a challenge is too hard, you have the receipts and you can say, no, I have evidence of all the times it went right and I know I can handle the new. And even though I'm a big fan of action, I really think that thinking and planning can ruin our life sometimes if we do it too much. I still have one last advice that requires you to think and to pause. And this last advice is my favorite because I love to understand what's happening in my mind, why am I the way I am, what's actually blocking me. So for that, you basically have to ask yourself why 6 times. You start with your biggest current fear, the exact thing that you're terrified of letting go of because it feels scary to jump into something new. And then from there, you just keep digging. You ask yourself why you're scared of that. Then you get an answer. And then you ask yourself why again, why is that happening? And then you get an answer. And then why again and again for 6 times. By the time you hit the bottom, you actually realize what's blocking you, what is at the root, and what actually needs healing. Don't forget that you're in control. Letting go of something doesn't mean that you have to flip your life upside down. It's not black or white, there is also gray. And so you get to choose what stays. Please do things for the you of tomorrow. If you want to be free, successful, happy in 10 years, you have to put in the work right now because a minor discomfort won't kill you today, but it could just be accumulated in 10 years and then you can live through the consequences.